Excellencies, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, let me stand on existing protocol for the want of time. On behalf of the UNDP Regional Service Center, I am pleased to first wish you a Happy New Year. It's my first official meeting, so Happy New Year to you all, and I hope the year is better than last year for you all. Africa's economic transformation is possible despite the global economic downturn that is being predicted. We expect a global growth rate to be merely 2.4%. Yet at UNDP, we strongly embrace the African Continental Free Trade Area, AfCFTA, as a global catalyst, not just an African catalyst, but as a global catalyst for structural economic transformation, if it is effectively implemented. We also see the value proposition of the CFTA as a driver for peace and security, because evidence have shown that if we provide young people with education, with employment, and improved quality of life, we are likely to reduce the risk of their instrumentalization in violence. But for the CFTA to work, partnerships will be very important. And therefore, it is our hope that through this event, we can be inspired by the partnership that we are seeking to build to effectively implement the African Continental Free Trade Area. And this is why at UNDP, we are working very closely with member states, with the African Union Commission, with the CFTA Secretariat, and with other UN agencies to ensure the full implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area. I would like to stress 3 important points before I end my remarks. The first point is that trade is about people. Africa's people are already creating products, pathways, and cross-border exchanges to achieve collective prosperity. At the same time, as we heard from the previous speaker, governments are also signatories to the agreement of the African Continental Free Trade Area on behalf of African citizens, and it's important that we make that emphasis. Therefore, as we review and plan ahead, it is important for us to be people-centered. We must ask whether policies have worked for African businesses, for investors, for producers, for workers, for communities. This would ensure that our policy efforts and institutions are directed at ensuring that the CFTA is indeed for the African peoples. And at UNDP, this is why we stress the importance of prioritizing youth and women as we advance and fully implement the CFTA. My second point is that trade must take into account the change in political and economic context in Africa. It is often not emphasized, but I want to emphasize this point, that trade is a foreign policy instrument as much as it's an economic driver. Since 2018, African governments have signed, ratified, and commenced implementation of the CFTA. However, the world has also witnessed economic shocks that we must acknowledge, dating back to even the time before the COVID pandemic. And therefore, as we seek to fully operationalize the CFTA, we must take into account that many African countries are at risk of debt default and stress. Inflation is also rising across the continent, with implications for cost of doing business and cost of living. On the political side, and I know some of the countries are here or border countries that have witnessed in recent times unconstitutional changes of government, especially in West and Central Africa. And as a result, it's important that as we implement the CFTA, we also take into account this political context. My last point is that trade is happening in a rapidly digitalizing world. The CFTA contains the forthcoming protocol on digital trade. This protocol will be important because it's going to be a tool to create a legally binding structure for digital trade within Africa, and has the potential to position a united digital Africa within the global economy. Since the CFTA came into force, the African digital economy has blossomed. Therefore, we now ask that we emphasize and prioritize digital creators, digital workers who are working tirelessly to also complement our efforts in implementing the CFTA, and they must also be supported in the work that we do. In conclusion, and with these reflections, I would like again welcome you all to this meeting, and I look forward to the deliberations over the next couple of days. Thank you so much for your attention.